We had the opportunity and the great honor to go through the whole 350 applications in less than a week. It was a great experience, and there are a few things that struck me. And the first one is not a very good one. Is the fact that I don't think there was even a single mobile project. So yeah, data journalists don't. I haven't really realized the power of mobile.
There are other models. We've been recently with the Texas Tribune, which was really interesting. We had a small conference in Austin in their newsroom, and one thing really struck me. We asked the editors how they work. It's a little online-only local newspaper that's reporting on Texas politics. They're really successful. They're publishing a lot of data, and they get a lot of traffic from their data posts. And what really struck me was that one editor said, in this newsroom, everybody's data aware. Meaning that not everybody is a coder, not everybody is a designer, not everybody is going deep, but when they get a new story, they're looking into the data. And I think that's the start of everything.
Another key event was when Hurricane Andrew hit Miami, where I was, and so I got involved in a big project that looked at the damage patterns from Hurricane Andrew, and we wound up writing a big investigative report called "What Went Wrong," that pointed out that the extent of the damage from the hurricane, it wasn't an act of God, it was really our own stupidity, because we had weakened the building codes and a whole variety of other sort of bad mistakes had been made, which made the disaster much worse than it could have been. You know, basically the computer showed us that counterintuitively, the newer the home, the more likely it was to be destroyed. And that sort of is the idea behind data journalism. You can go beyond anecdote. You know, so many of our stories have been based on just anecdotes, things that we've heard, occasional instances. But to me, the beauty of using a computer is you can actually produce evidence out of the data that can tell you what's going on.
A little bit, and I run a small group called the Reporters Lab at Duke University, in which what we're doing is taking a look at some of these new methods, things like text mining, which has caught the attention of a lot of people in journalism, ways to look at very large collections of documents and find patterns in them. We're starting to experiment with machine learning, where, for instance, if you have a pile of documents and you get to say, hey, this one's interesting, nah, this one isn't. Hey, this one's interesting, nah, this one isn't. And you do that maybe 100 times, it might be able to guess which other 100 you're going to find interesting. So, and the last thing that we're really working on is how to deal with things like audio and video records and how to extract more meaning out of them than we have in the past. All of these things are focused on the reporting end of the journalism spectrum, the discovery of stories and the way of documenting stories.
Because he's brilliant. Now, a couple of things we did was, one of the things we're interested in was this idea there was a riot commute, and which was that people were travelling a long way to get to the riot. And part of this came as an issue because people were being threatened with eviction if they travelled from one place to another from their council housing. So we thought, well, that's interesting. How are we going to show that? So we were talking about kind of borrowing technology. So what we did was we went to a transport mapping company. And what ITO World do is they work out the most likely routes people are going to get from A to B. Okay, so they think, oh, if you're going from here to here, this is probably the way you're going to do it. Because we didn't have, how were we going to work that out? What we did have was we had the addresses of where people lived and where people ended up, where they were arrested. So we said to them, well, can you map it? What would it look like? Because we were interested in the idea that, people travel differently to the riots across different places. So this is London, and London is very disparate, right? There are lots of city centres in London. So you can see, you've got South London there, North London. It's very, very different. It's a model. We don't know exactly how people do it, but it's kind of the best way we've got. But in Manchester, very different, because Manchester's got one city centre, and one guy came from 30 miles into the centre of Manchester. People travelled quite a long way. And there you go, that's Manchester. So again, we never, having access to other people that can do this kind of work and then bringing it together with the data we have meant that we could do something which was kind of. It is that thing you were saying of when you're doing this stuff, kind of in a way the world is your team, because there are other people out there who've got different skills that you need. and you can go to them, and we do that a lot. So often things like we do with that transport mapping, I'll know there'll be somebody outside who'll have the skills that we need, and what's the point of, somebody inside spending ages kind of learning to do something, somebody outside can just do it. And we're often, a lot of what we're about now is trying to bring people into our journalism, being open about stuff. And this area is just something that really lends itself to that, because there are so many people out there who know more about stuff than we do.